And welcome to Nurse Mark and the Green Nurse Daily Dose of AFA,
where we bring you hope and inspiration for growth and healing so you can start your day off the AFA way. And in case you have forgotten, we're here every day to remind you you are absolutely fucking amazing exactly as you are. And Nurse Mark wrote a book about it. Mark, what do you think?
Sherry, I couldn't have said it any better. Absolutely. Everyone out there, everybody is absolutely fucking amazing. At your core, that is who you are. And we take on all of these things over time, over our experiences, what we hear, what we're told, what we are told to believe. We take on all of these things that just weigh us down. And so the book's about tearing all those off and getting back to that amazing core, which you are absolutely fucking amazing. So when you come from that, anything is possible. So, Sherry, you look a little frozen.
Anything
kid.
is possible. And that's one of the things. Oh,
You're good.
Can you see me?
You're good. Yeah.
Can you see me? I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I really love about all this, Mark, is that, when we talk about this whole absolutely fucking amazing, what we're trying to really teach you is that the internal world that you create, because you're in your core, you're awesome just as you are. And we have all these outside circumstances that try to tell us otherwise. So we're teaching us to get back to the core, get back to the love.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is, of who you are. So you can manifest, you can see the love on the outside world coming in and you can let it in. So when you create this dynamic inner world that is rich, filled with your ability to self-soothe and auto-regulate your own emotions, and to realize that at your core you're fine, and it's just life. We're humans. We have these meat suits.
Yeah.
And so that's why
reality's not out there. Reality's all in here. Yeah, it's all in here. So we get burdened with all of that stuff. We strip it away. So that's what the book's about. It's about stripping away all of the junk that you accumulate, all of the stories, because they're all stories. Everything that you were ever told was just a story that whoever told you heard from somebody else. Like they didn't generate this knowledge themselves. They just accepted it from somebody else's story. So it's that generational story after story after story after story. And a lot of times the stories we tell ourselves are not the best, right?
No, because we're
hardest on ourselves, and we say, oh, well, here we are again. This always happens to me. It's because blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The blah, blah, blah is the bullshit. It's not true. You're absolutely amazing exactly as you are. So people think, Sherry, we live lives like a lot of people live their lives like, if only I get to this place where I have enough money, life is going to be good. And we scramble around and we try to make that money and we focus on the money and we work. And what happens is life goes by. We miss that opportunity, the rich moments in the experience of the now. We miss that. And you know what? We may end up being successful and get to that point where we have that money. And then we turn around and we find out that we have missed all these opportunities, whether with family or friends or just to live. And we find that it's not what we thought it was.
I agree.
Now, money's good.
There's nothing bad about money. However, we all know this. Right?
Yeah.
Our health, you cannot, our mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health, there's nothing more important than that. And when people lose that, when you go from high functioning to not functioning at all, as so many people do that we don't even talk about, they have that sense of loss and who am I in the world and what can I do?
Money doesn't buy health.
No,
it'll allow you the latitude to choose healthy things a little easier, right? Because a lot of people don't have access to really high quality food. What they have in their neighborhoods is what they have in their neighborhoods, and that's what they have to deal with, unfortunately. But so money can be a tool to help you to live a little bit healthier, but it's not the be all end all, right? Yeah.
Yes. The be all end all is cannabis.
Oh, there you go. Oh my gosh. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yeah.
Nurse Mark CBD. I need some of this to regulate my endocannabinoid system. Thank you for making this for me.
Oh my
And the
gosh,
world.
you
It's
are
not all about
welcome.
me.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Hey,
Oh, so
rise
here
and
we are,
shine.
Cher. You're up in the Northlands with a little snow. I'm down here in the South, digging the
I am,
sunshine that's coming. And
yes,
you know what? It's Monday, March 29th. We're winding down the month of March, and springtime is coming. This is an exciting time of year. And today, this Monday, March 29th, really is the only one we get. We're not getting another one of these. This is it. So
this is
it's
it.
not a dress rehearsal. And you know what? Let's just have that AFA day. Morning,
Let's just
Beth.
make it, create it, no
Let's
matter
just
what.
do it. Right, right.
No
There's no
matter what.
excuses. You can shed all of that crap. So here we are. Let's talk daily love. Now, a lot of times on Mondays, I like to pull from the landmark stuff, because
Mhm.
you're landmark trained. I am. A ton of people I know are. And, several million people around the world have experienced this particular training, this technology. So today it talked about speaking and listening. And
Ooh.
in the landmark sort of genre, the reality is created by language, right? Before
Mhm.
we have language, there is no meaning to the world. It's you just are, and you're part of this whole thing. As soon as we're taught language, that's when there's separation. That's when you become you and I become me, and then we're
Right,
separate, right? Because language says that's you, this is me.
right.
All of the reality is generated with language. So speaking and listening become a way of creating your reality. So today we talk about the act of listening, because everybody focuses on speaking as if speaking is the only part of generating reality, when in fact it's just one of two components. And in this case, we're talking listening. And it's about listening is we often think of as more passive, important, but somehow lesser or secondary. But listening is the clearing in which speaking can occur. Without it, there isn't any speaking.
Ooh, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Because yes, here you
yeah,
so basically if you're not listening to the person that is in
mhm,
front of you,
yeah,
what are you truly listening to? You're listening to what's going on in your head and they're not really
yeah.
speaking to you, right?
So what do we do? What do we do as human beings? Everybody does it. This is what we do when we're listening to somebody speak. We're listening to respond. We're interpreting what they're saying and we're thinking, how am I going to respond to this? What am I going to say back to them? So we're not really even listening to them. We're listening to them in the context of how am I going to respond to them?
Right, right. And
And you
what can I
never,
say?
yes, right?
What can I say to match the conversation? Like right? You think
It's
about it,
always
like,
an
do I
analysis. So we're always that, and that's one of the phrases, always, already, always listening. So we're already anticipating what we're going to say. So how can we really even hear what that other person says? Now, Sherry, I've taken a ton of sales training because I, had to is running my last business. Part of it was I had to learn how to sell things, right? So
Mhm.
I've done a ton of the best sales training in the world. And literally every one of them, one of the components, one of the key components is learning how to listen, how to actively listen to when someone speaks, to hear what they're saying, right? Not be ready to respond with what you want to respond with, but hearing them and understanding what they're saying to you rather than what you want to respond back. So when you can cultivate that skill, and it really is a skill, just like any other, you learn, you wire your pathways to listen to somebody when they speak. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
I use the example, Sherry. I was on a date one time, first date, and I was sitting there
Oh, this is
and
a good story.
yeah. And so I let this girl talk and I listened. I didn't respond much. I just took it all in and I really intently listened. Now I was purposely doing this, right? Because I wanted to be an active listener because I probably read a book that week and I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I should really do this. I should actively listen to this person." And I did. And so I didn't share much about myself, but I learned so much about her.
Of
And
course you
and at
did.
the end, we stood up and we were getting ready to leave the restaurant. She turned and she said, "You know what? I have to say, you're one of the most interesting people I think I've ever spoken to." It's like I didn't say
Say a
anything,
word.
but she
There you
felt
go.
heard.
Heard.
She felt heard, right? That
Yes.
is what happens when you actively listen to someone. They feel that you have heard them, right? Really them in their speaking. It's magical. So
It,
cultivating the ability to actively listen is just a blessing.
and we do it with our patients every single day. So when patients come to us for
Mhm.
cannabis education, I always want to make it about me because I want to save them. I want them to have everything that I
Yeah.
have, but it's not about me. It's about their
Mhm.
healing. And so
Mhm.
when we work with patients, literally, we look at them right in the eyeball or right through Zoom or whatever through the phone, and we'll say, "What's important to you and how do you want to live your life?" And let
Mhm.
them tell their story. We don't sit in the story, buy into the story, but we
Mhm.
listen to it and help them to cultivate and go down a path of wellness and healing based on education and choices. We educate them on the choices that they're looking for. You know,
Mhm.
how can I use cannabis as medicine? And I'm like, oh, you should use it this way, this way, this way, this way. Oh, I think you should do this, this, and this. But
Yeah.
no, that's not me listening. My
Right.
ability to sit and listen shows that I care. The essence of nursing is human caring, and that's why we do what we do every single day. You know, we're taking a different type of approach when we approach patients for cannabis education, because generally 9 times out of 10, people have experienced medical and pharmaceutical trauma where they haven't been
Yeah.
heard. They haven't been heard, you know? So that is leads right into today's
Here we
topic,
go.
right?
Yeah. Motivational
Motivational.
Monday, NCSBN guidelines, Sherry.
Yes. And so basically, this is why Mark and I talk about this every single Monday. What
Mhm.
motivates us as cannabis nurses? What motivates us as nurses? What motivates us as health professionals? Well, the National Council State Boards of Nursing put out a call to action, and they are the regulatory board that creates the NCLEX exam that actually registers, certifies all nurses for their
All
nursing
nurses.
licensure,
Every
right?
nurse has to take the NCLEX.
Yep. So they came out in 2018 in the Journal of Nursing Regulation for medical
Mhm.
cannabis. And
Mhm.
they identified 6 essential areas of knowledge about cannabis for all nurses, nursing students, and advanced practice nurses. So
Mhm.
we've been talking about these week after week, and I'm really
Right.
feeling compelled to continue talking about the safety considerations. And that's
Yes.
the fifth one.
That's the
So,
one
Mark,
for today.
yeah, what's the fifth one say?
Okay, here we go. This is the topic for today. The nurse shall be able to identify the safety considerations for patient use of cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing here, Mark and I have been pulling different health awareness topics
Mhm.
month to month, and we've been educating on those and how it could fit into cannabis education. So, we're going to get into that now. So, Mark, health awareness is National Poison Prevention Month, right?
Right. Right.
I think
Yeah.
about people. So, we're going to
Prepare,
decrease
prevent,
this
and
stigma.
protect.
Yes. The American Association of Poison Control Centers. So, what is
Mhm.
this? So, we're talking about health awareness, we're talking about topics, we're talking about safety. So, the
Mhm.
American Association of Poison Control Centers, they represent America's 55 poison centers and promotes poison
Mhm.
safety and awareness.
Mhm.
So, they work with emergencies 24/7, 365
Right.
days a year, and they're all over the United States in
Right.
150 languages. So, medical experts, nurses, doctors, pharmacists, and other specialists, they're available
Mhm.
to take calls. So, you know, when in doubt, check it out and call. You know, it's always important to do that. But, you know, one of the things we want to talk about, because we always hear we hear patients and we hear people in the communities, you know, is this dangerous? Is this poison? Is this bad? So we're
Mhm.
going to talk really quickly about really, really interesting. In 2020, this is just
Mhm.
an interesting, there was a 20% increase in calls between January and March of 2020 about chemical cleansers and disinfectants compared to the prior year. Right?
Yeah.
This is just important for, this is why we're just kind of making the analogy, is
Mhm.
that we have all of these different things in our homes, and do people consider, you know, so we
Right.
right? So keep these things
Yeah.
away from children, Mark. What are we keeping away from kids?
Right. Listen, there has been a marked increase in the calls to the poison centers about cannabis ingestion with children. So people are bringing edibles home and they're not putting them in a safe spot, and the kids come in and they see these little brownie chunks, or they see the chocolates, or they see all of these marvelous edibles, and they end up ingesting them. And we'll
Right.
talk about that a little bit more, because it's different for a toddler, for a child under 5. When they consume cannabis, it's a different experience altogether.
Yeah, and the other point to make about that is
Mhm.
also this is there's a difference between children consuming that have healthy endocannabinoid systems and
Right.
things that aren't wrong as it compared to those kids that actually need cannabis as medicine. So we're,
Right.
we're basically talking about kids, curious kids that aren't medical cannabis patients that are
Right.
exploring,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
'Cause Their
Mhm.
their effect is definitely, can be challenging and we don't want that to
Yes.
happen. So
Right.
safety, safety.
Safety is the consideration. Absolutely. Yeah. So Sherry, when we talk about safety, we're talking about labeling on all products, having a lockbox, following the instructions on the label if there are instructions.
Yeah.
And these are all really important considerations.
Right, because you don't want your children and you don't want your animals to get into your cannabis.
Right.
Really, it's about safe use of cannabis,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so here we get all the time. So when we lecture and we present,
Uh-huh.
even when we're working with patients, a question that I get all the time is, can you overdose on cannabis?
Yeah, that's
Right?
always a question that comes up, right? And,
Yeah,
pretty much everyone will agree you really can't overdose on cannabis because of the physiology and how it works in the body.
right.
When we talk about overdose, everybody automatically thinks of opioid overdose, which of course we've
Exactly.
had the epidemic that's killed, hundreds of thousands of people, because opiates hit the opiate receptors. And what
Receptors.
do, Sherry?
The opioid receptors control breathing. They control
Yes.
our cardiorespiratory centers.
So
And our
when folks pass away from an opioid overdose, it's because their respiration and heart rate has been decreased past the point of being able to sustain life. And
right.
that's how they expire. So, and that's why, you have these, drugs that'll offset it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. And so
So
everybody, there's generally access everywhere in the United States now for these drugs that'll reverse the effects of opioids. And what
yeah,
do? They
Narcan.
block the
They
receptor.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
Narcan, you get these people with Narcan, nasal
Hmm.
things, injections, basically the cardiorespiratory centers are completely blocked and people stop breathing and then they stop, their hearts stop. So it
Yeah.
blocks it. So to knock it off so
Yeah.
we can wake people up and they don't die.
Right.
Yeah. So that doesn't
Yeah.
happen. That doesn't happen with cannabis.
Does
So
not.
cannabinoid receptors are not located in the brainstem that control respiration. So
That's the
lethal
key.
overdoses of just cannabis alone do
Mhm.
not occur in cannabinoids.
Right.
Just doesn't,
Right. Right.
you know.
Exactly. And that's the important thing to note. Now, we talk about this a lot, and we'll get into this a little bit in the edibles, but you may feel like you're dying.
Mhm.
Like if you've
Yeah,
ever had a little too much THC, and it's individualized for you, it may be 20 milligrams. For somebody else, it may be 80. If you have a little too much THC and you get in that biphasic effect, you will feel like you're dying. You will literally feel this happens to me. I'm super, super sensitive to THC. And it's why I stopped using cannabis, 35 years ago, right?
yeah,
Because I would have a massive panic attack. Like it was not fun for me anymore. I just,
right.
it wasn't. Every time I would consume THC, I would be under the table, completely having, racing hard. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. If you've had a panic attack, folks, you
It's
do feel
panic
like you're
attacks are
dying.
not fun. You
Here's
do.
the
You
here's the
do.
thing. You're not. You're not going to
Mhm.
pass away. You'll feel like that for a while. And, there are things that you can do, right? So,
There's
Sherry.
things that you can do. Well, here's one. Let's just really quickly.
Mhm,
So if you do overconsume, right, here's
mhm,
the other thing. Should you dial 911? Okay, just think
mhm.
about this. So if you're
Yeah.
relatively healthy and you don't have a cardiac condition and you have anxiety and paranoia as a result of too much THC, I just want to think about what might happen. If you dial 911, you're going to get an ambulance, you're going to get the police.
Yep.
So what do first responders generally do when patients green out or freak out? They give you more drugs. That's what they do. They give you, they open up, you know, anti-anxiety agents. And that's it. Nothing magical, right? There is nothing magical about what they're going to provide. However, like we said, if you have other comorbidities, if you have cardiac condition and you are having an anxiety and a panic attack and you're feeling it in your chest, absolutely, you know, we want you to take care of that.
Absolutely.
But if you're new, you know, the number one way of preventing it is not to overconsume, right?
Right. So Sherry, what's the most prevalent way of overconsuming? Most people
definitely
end up having an adverse experience by what? Edibles, right?
Edibles. Yeah, it is, you know, and so how much is too much, right? So when we talk about that, it's different for everyone. All patients are different, and it's dependent upon all of these variables, the
Oh
age,
my gosh,
sex,
so many.
disease, processes, symptoms, metabolism, other pharmaceuticals, health and wellness, what you've eaten, what you've drank, how you slept the night before. All of these things affect our endocannabinoid system. And so, like we said, the method of administration for consumption is where people can get into trouble.
Right.
So,
And you know, the reason is really simple, folks. Once you understand what happens when you eat a cannabis product, right? So delta-9 THC is the intoxicating component cannabinoid in cannabis. And so when you smoke it, you're getting just that delta-9 into your bloodstream. And that's where you get that intoxicating effect and you have all of those feelings. When you ingest it and eat it, you know, when we eat things, your body recognizes, is this supposed to be here or is it not? So when we metabolize something, that metabolization is your body saying, hey, I don't recognize this thing. I'm going to make it more water soluble so I can flush this out of the kidneys. And that's really what it's doing. So it sees that cannabis that you ingest, that delta-9 THC, and it says, wait a minute, I don't think this is supposed to be here. Let's convert this to something a little more water soluble and let's get rid of it. When it does that, it converts that delta-9 THC into 11-hydroxy THC, a completely different chemical
molecule.
Which is what, Sherry?
Definitely, it is 2 times at least stronger, you know, a lot stronger, lasts a lot stronger. It's not metabolized quickly out. And out of all the methods of administration, it can last the longest.
Right. Which in the world of medicine, which we're working with, that's a good thing, right? So if you have chronic pain, you want something that lasts 6 hours in duration, right? So
I'm a fan of edibles for me.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it's the other thing too is that, you know, there's a lot of different ways to ingest it in, a lot of different cannabinoids. There's a way to decreasing side effects. We're going to talk a little bit about what happens if you do overconsume. But yes, taking cannabis in orally has been a game changer for so many different people. And it's not about eating the biggest, largest THC infused cookie. It's not. You know, it's about using it appropriately to like adding it into your diet, you know, adding it in, micro dosing. Because what do we want to do? We want to mimic our own endocannabinoid system and how the light switch goes on and off. Right. So what do we have? So what does a bad reaction look like, Mark?
Oh, well, confusion, thirstiness, dry mouth, concentration problems, slower reaction times, dry eyes, lethargy and fatigue, headaches, dizziness, increased heart rate. That's the one. Anxiety and other changes in mood. You know, in other rarer cases, absolutely can cause hallucinations, paranoia, panic attacks, nausea, and vomiting. So again, it's biphasic. The right amount will have a great effect. A little bit more than that, woo.
Yes. And here's a tip, and here's a trick, and here's a hug and a nug of information. So if you do decide to make your own edibles, do not lick the spoon, do not lick the bowl, do not lick your fingers. And that's because I'm going to say I did that once or twice, not thinking, and basically the effects were overconsumption. And it was uncomfortable. You know, I knew I knew that nothing bad was going to happen, but I needed to figure out a way to self-soothe because, there was anxiety. And then with the
Yeah.
anxiety, what happens, your heart starts to beat more. And then when your heart
Right.
starts to beat more, you're like, ah,
Mhm.
right. And so,
Yeah.
basically I'm generally healthy, didn't have a cardiac condition,
Mhm.
so I knew that I needed to do something different to get out of it. And so this
Right.
is truly with so many different patients, some tips and tricks that other patients have reported, as well as
Mhm.
you and I, Mark, that have, when we do our research, over consuming, you need to ride it out, right? And there's things that
Yeah.
you can do to make you feel better.
Mhm. Mhm.
What's the number one, Mark? Number one, we talk about
Mindset.
it. That's it.
Mindset. Listen, you're not gonna die. No one's died. Repeat the mantra, "I'm high as fuck, and this too shall pass." Yeah.
You need to ride it
Yeah,
out.
you ride it out. Ride it
Yeah.
out. Yep.
Don't freak out, right? That's the worst thing that you can do is because it's
Mhm.
going to make it worse. And I know
Right.
it's easier said than done, but bottom
Mhm.
line, CBD is your best friend, right? Everyone get a
Right.
bottle of this, Nurse Mark. So
Yeah.
what does CBD do, Mark?
Listen, it has the capacity to decrease the intoxicating effects of THC,
Yeah,
right? It binds to a different part of that CB1 receptor and it modulates just how much THC has an effect on that receptor. I mean, it's
yeah.
it's it's known, like it's documented. I was reading studies last night that had to do with this. And
See?
so CBD and THC, that combination, it's a beautiful thing, folks.
Yeah, we love it.
It'll
We
allow
talk
you,
about
we
it.
talk about it all the time, Sherry, right? It allows
Yeah,
you to have the benefits of THC
it does.
systemically, but not that intoxication, which is what
Yes.
a lot of people just get a little panicky about, right? Um,
Yes.
so CBD is your best friend.
It is.
Yeah.
So think about this. So let's just talk about like we'll parallel. So say
Mhm.
you do get anxious and you're like, oh, considering dialing 911. Just think about this. If they come to your house, what are they going to give you? They're going to give you pharmaceuticals and anti-anxiety agents. So if
Of
you
course
can
they are.
self-soothe, CBD, same thing as an
Yep.
anti-anxiety agent, and the dosing is
Mhm.
different for everyone. Some of the other things that I've also heard patients report is that water soluble CBD has been reported to help,
Yeah.
getting it in a little bit more into your gut,
Mhm.
providing more of a calming effect, on your
Right.
microbiome. Remember, we say the
Yeah.
microbiome communicates via
Uh-huh.
our brain, via the endocannabinoid system. So all of these different things that you can do, CBD is definitely your best friend.
Right.
So
And
what
I've
else,
heard
Mark?
peppercorns too. Have you had
Yes.
this? Have you heard this one? Right? Peppercorns, because they contain terpenes and
Hmm.
those can have an effect on decreasing that anxiety and that high associated with the THC. So that's another one that people have said work. Um,
Yes. And the beta
Self-soothing.
caryophyllene.
So yeah, meditation, decreased stimulation, soft music, and breath work can help. Breath work can really help.
Really help.
That
Yes.
deep breathing will have an effect on your nervous system immediately.
Yeah. So what we're doing is,
Yeah.
so when you get anxious, you go into fight or flight. You're like,
Yep.
woo,
Yep. Your
right? And so
sympathetic nervous system gets blasted.
yeah.
Yep.
And then the breath work helps to reset your central nervous system to get back
Yep.
into parasympathetic, the calming,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And the other thing, so other things to calm, and I've done this, and other patients
Yeah.
have reported that it works. And so it's not. Think about this: going outside. So
Mhm.
when you're high, you're pretty much out of your body, right?
Yep.
So we need to get back into our body. So doing things that are going to make us grounded, getting back into our body. So going outside, putting your bare feet on the earth, go
Uh-huh.
hug a tree, go talk to plants and flowers. So these are
Yeah.
self-soothing to bring you back into this world, right?
Yep.
Other things to distract yourself if you can't relax. So find
Yeah.
an activity that you can engage in. Color, dance,
Right.
listen, go out in
Mhm.
nature, music, put a headset on, put your mindfold
Yeah.
on and just go
Yeah.
chill. Use this as a learning experience to go in, right? A
Mhm.
way to,
Yep.
to have a way to process emotions in a way. So just know it's going to pass. It's going to pass.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And so
What
there's a
about
ton of
water?
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a ton of things, really. You wanna hydrate, make sure you get plenty of water. You're gonna flush more of that THC, the 11-hydroxy out of your body. So you wanna really hydrate, make sure your body has enough liquid on board that it's gonna be able to process all of this stuff you've ingested. Eat some more stuff, like eat some
Yeah.
additional items, right?
right?
Get your
Yeah.
digestive tract, your liver and kidneys. You can really help process that THC.
Yeah. The other thing too is there's a lot of patients. Remember how we said that, cannabis can be biphasic and it works great
Yep.
for nausea, but if you do too much, you can become very nauseated. Patients
Yeah.
have reported
Mhm.
throwing up. So one of the things when we talk about why a patient
Mhm.
throws up, too much THC can slow your gastric motility. Things
Yep.
aren't moving and it
Mhm.
stimulates the response to puke. So what
Yeah.
happens is when you take a shower or a warm bath, that
Mhm.
can actually calm you down. It helps
Yeah.
these receptors start to pop up, so your
Uh-huh.
gastrointestinal tract starts to move. So just think of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
calm, right?
All
And
right.
the
Well,
hydration,
yeah.
hydrating on multiple different things, trying to avoid
Mhm.
the sugar and the caffeine and all of those things that, um,
Mhm.
yeah,
All
that I
right.
don't
All right.
support.
Listen, we're running up against it, folks. All right, Sherry, let's get through it.
Yes, get through it. So the
Yeah.
unofficial guide, right? The unofficial
Yep.
guide. Here is how the psychoactive is typically dosed when we're
Yep.
working with patients.
Mhm.
Everyone's different, but for the new people, we like microdosing anywhere
Sort of
between
a
1 and 5
baseline.
milligrams. Yeah, it's the baseline.
Mhm.
Microdosing, starting dose,
Right.
mitigating side effects using CBD.
Right.
Standard dosing for many patients that are using cannabis is anywhere from 5 to 10 milligrams of THC
Right.
throughout the day. And
Mhm.
then higher doses are between 15 and 25 milligrams. And this isn't
Right.
all at once. Some of it sometimes it could be spread out throughout the day, or it
Yeah.
could be chunks of milligrams throughout the day, depending upon what patients need. So it's
All right.
dosing times, methods, amounts, and just
Mhm.
remembering that every single person is different.
Is different, and figuring
Yeah.
out what works for you is the magic. So that's
Mhm.
why, consultation with someone who's been trained and experienced in working with people is the thing to do for sure.
Yes.
Because, we're aficionados of stacking. So using different methods of
Love it.
administration based on what your diagnosis is and what you're dealing with, we can help
And
coach you on using different ways of getting cannabis into your system,
all at the
microdosing,
same time.
all at
Yeah.
the same time. That'll
Yep.
give you that long-term effect and that really
Balance.
quick hit where you have that relief. So yeah, there's a lot to
It's
it.
not
There's a lot to it.
not a we wanna roller coaster rides can be fun, but when you're
Yeah.
new to cannabis, right now, we want smooth. We
Ah,
wanna
yeah,
woo
baby.
we want a slow
Smooth and
ride,
easy.
right? Slow
Yep.
ride, take
Uh,
it easy, right?
woo. Oh yeah.
All right,
Well, now, okay.
wrapping it up.
Wow. What do we got going on this week, Sherry?
All right, we have a lot going on this week. So
Oh, we
basically, we have our morning shows every morning from 8 to 8:20. Might be a little
And we
bit longer
love that
today.
you're here with us.
We
Good
do.
morning,
Hello,
everybody.
everyone.
Thanks for
Yeah.
starting your day off with us. Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
And then tonight, so tonight we're
Yep.
doing another informational tonight on the page. There's an event about
Mhm.
Healy and energy healing. So Denise
Yep.
and Michelle and Carrie Lee.
Awesome.
Then we have Terpene Tuesday on Wednesday. So
Mhm.
Terpene Tuesday for In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio.
Yep.
Wednesday, we have our Canna Talk section. In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, and that's going to be an amazing show.
Oh,
Danielle Simone Lebrand is going to be on. She wrote the book Weed Moms. So really, really going to be a good show. And she's
mhm.
decreasing stigma around what mothers, what it means for a mom or a woman,
Yep.
to start using
Yep.
cannabis as a health and wellness tool, not only medically, but like a lifestyle. What does it mean, canna wellness?
Mhm.
Then we have our show Wednesday night. Oh my God, this is going to be an awesome one. We have the medicine hunter. Okay.
Woo.
This guy has traveled the world. He's written 15 books. This is his most recent called The Lotus and the Bud. And it's
Yeah.
basically, and he's into other plant medicines. He's into
Mhm.
other entheogens. And so we're going to talk all about his journey and what led him. He's been doing it for over 50 years. So this is going
Oh,
to be a
I
really,
can't
really good
wait.
show.
That's gonna
Yeah, we
be
have an event.
one not to miss, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday night, streaming live
Yeah,
to Facebook and YouTube. Oh, you
yeah,
gotta be
it's
there.
going to be
You
great.
gotta be
Yeah.
there.
And then the
Yeah.
last thing at the end of the week is our energy healing frequency Fridays, where we
Right.
all gather
Right.
together and we bring you, hope and inspiration
Mhm.
for growth and healing through
Yeah.
this cool little machine, Healy. So we
Yeah.
like all that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, folks, listen. Monday, March 29th, 2021. literally is the only one you're going to get. What are you going to do for yourself today? I'm going to do the 44 breath meditation when I get off of this show right now. Like, I'm just going to go outside. I'm going to get my wife. We're going to sit down. We're going to do this. You know what? Do something like that. Sherry, you got that? You know
what?
do
I
it.
think I'm gonna mimic you on that, and then we have a little recording to do. But I think that's a good idea. Taking the time to pause, to reset, right, and continue on. So we are gonna have a airway breathing circulation day, Ananda, breath work, cannabis,
That's it.
health, happiness, cannabis. You guys are awesome.
Baby.
They're
An
awesome.
AFA day. And Sherry, what's it all about?
It's about living your best life and helping others do the same. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Love you guys. Thanks for joining us.